それではお時間となりましたので、ただいまより特別。
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to open the International Symposium on Forging a Sustainable Future through Africa-Japan Collaboration towards enhancing food security and promoting sustainable blue economies. Thank you for joining with us despite your busy schedule. As we expect TICAD 9 that will take place next month, our foundation decided to convene the eminent persons meeting on sustainable development and international partnership for Africa. And based upon that, the meeting, I'd like to explore the future partnership between Japan and Africa from food security and sustainable blue economy point of view. This is the hybrid event, both physically here in Toronto as well as live streaming through YouTube. Now, first, I'd like to invite Dr. Atsushi Tsunami, President of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, to welcome you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tsunami of Sasakawa Peace Foundation. It's a great pleasure for us to welcome you all. International Symposium, Forging a Sustainable Future through Africa-Japan Collaboration towards enhancing food security and promoting sustainable blue economies. I'd like to say a few words as opening remarks. With Africa, with its growing population and economy, faces social transformation, geopolitical change, climate change, and other complex and multifaceted challenges. Conserving its territorial, coastal, and ocean ecosystem, and at the same time increasing food production through sustainable resources management are extremely important for equitable and inclusive socio-economic development. To explore comprehensive solutions, we, Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and our sister organization, the Nippon Foundation and the Sasakawa Africa Association, invited experts of relevant backgrounds to discuss how to ensure food security and promote the blue economies, including sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, to address the many issues that Africa faces today while raising agricultural production. The experts, the recommendations were just handed to Foreign Minister Iwaya today, and we also wanted to improve the partnership between Africa and Japan for TICAD 9. A set of recommendations toward the promotion of sustainable development in Africa. This is the title of the recommendations by the experts. We also invited African leaders who led states or regional organizations for their advice for a more effective Japan-Africa partnership in the important areas such as food security and blue economy. With these distinguished leaders, we convened eminent persons meeting on sustainable development, international partnership with Africa until yesterday, and discussed the specific ways to implement the experts' recommendations, which also were presented to Foreign Minister Iwaya just a few hours ago. So, based with the eminent person discussions, this symposium aims to explore the way forward, which I hope will provide a useful perspective with TICAD 9 to be held in Yokohama next month. So that we can see a more stronger partnership between Japan and Africa. We are very pleased to have with Yuki Fuji, State Minister for Foreign Affairs, sharing busy schedule from sharing the time from his schedule. I sincerely hope that the Minister will lead the summit meeting of the TICAD to be held starting 20th of August for a stronger and productive Japan-Africa partnership based on 32 years of the history. And I hope that our recommendations and the statements and our discussions will provide a useful perspective for effective implementation of the TICAD process further on. Thank you. And I conclude by expressing my sincere appreciation for all of those who worked for this symposium. And I sincerely hope that today's discussion will serve as the foundation for further Japan-Africa partnership in promoting blue economy and enhancing food security. Thank you.
以上、須波理事長よりご挨拶申し上げました。
Thank you very much, Dr. Tsunami. Next, I'd like to invite the guest, His Excellency Mr. Hisayuki Fujii, State Minister for Foreign Affairs of Japan. Now, I'd like to hand over the microphone to you, Minister Fujii.
Good afternoon, bonjour, boa tarde. Habari za mchana. Asanteni sana. Sasakawa Nippon 平和財団名誉会長、須波笹川
Mr. Sasakawa, the president of Sasakawa Foundation, and Mr. Tsunami, or Dr. Tsunami, have their Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and the excellencies. I'm here representing Japan, the government of Japan.
Chairman of the Nippon Foundation, Dr. Tsunami, President of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, Honorable former heads of states of Africa, distinguished guests. My name is Fujii Hisayuki, State Minister for Foreign Affairs of Japan. I'd like to extend my sincere congratulations on the holding of the eminent peace persons meeting on sustainable development and international cooperation in Africa and the special international symposium. Today, I'd like to make a few remarks on behalf of the government of Japan. 本年は TICAD9 が横浜で開催される日アフリカ関係にとって特別な年です。TICAD9 ではアフリカおよび国際社会が直面する諸課題について日本とアフリカの双方の繁栄につながるような革新的な課題解決策を共に作り上げる機会としたいと考えております。This is a special year for Japan-Africa relations as TICAD9 will be held in Yokohama. We would like to take this opportunity at TICAD9 to co-create innovative solutions for various challenges facing Africa and the international community that will lead to the prosperity of both Japan and Africa. 海洋をめぐっては水産資源の枯渇、海水温上昇、環境汚染などさまざまな課題が存在しております。海に囲まれた日本とアフリカはこれらの課題に対処しながら海洋の保全と持続可能な利用を通じて経済振興を進めるべく知見や経験を共有しながら連携を強化する関係にあります。Regarding the oceans, there are various challenges such as the depletion of fisheries resources, rising sea temperatures, and environmental pollution. Both surrounded by the sea, Japan and Africa can strengthen our cooperation by sharing knowledge and experience in order to address these issues and promote economic development through the conservation and sustainable use of the oceans. 本日のシンポジウムでは、産業強化や雇用創出、民間セクターによる持続可能な成長、若者や女性の能力強化、人材育成、海洋の連結性強化などの観点で TICAD9 に向けて有益な成果が得られることを期待しております。今回のシンポジウムのような日本とアフリカのリーダーによる対話の機会が設けられることは、日本政府として大いに歓迎したいと思います。At today's symposium, I hope beneficial outcomes for TICAD9 will be achieved in terms of industrial enhancement and job creation, sustainable growth by the private sector, capacity building and human resource development of the youth and women, enhancement of maritime connectivity, and so on. The government of Japan would like to very much welcome the opportunities like this symposium for providing space for dialogues between the leaders of Japan and Africa. 本日は食料安全保障および持続可能なブルーエコノミーの推進に向けた実りある議論が行われることを記念し、私からの挨拶とさせていただきます。I'd like to conclude my remarks by expressing my hope that fruitful discussions will be held for the promotion of food security and sustainable blue economies today. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Muito obrigado. Asante sana.
藤井外務副大臣、ありがとう。
Thank you very much, Minister Fujii. Next, to welcome the leaders of Africa and the members of the regional organizations, the honorary chairman of the Nippon Foundation, Mr. Yohei Sasakawa, is going to address you. Now over to you, Mr. Sasakawa.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your coming to this symposium, braving the severe heat. I believe that you all have high expectations on Africa. Please allow me to introduce myself. For the 50 years I have been involved in Africa, and particularly concerning in order to suppress, combat leprosy. I have been distributing the medicine free. I have been still visit the African nations. Still, I have still covered only 30 nations, but I believe that the local communities have problems and answers or solutions as well. So that is why I believe in going out and to see myself on the field. So I believe that blue economies will be discussed as well. So over the last half a century, we have been developing human resources for ocean economy or the blue economy. And in Africa, the many farmers are on a small scale, the operation and extension, agricultural extension agents. Well, about 12,000 of them have been developed after they graduated college. So through these activities, we believe in what African people have in themselves. They have the motivation to improve livelihood, and they have passion for it. They indeed are blessed with the strong passion. This may not be easily understood in Japan, but they are thinking of how to effectively seize opportunities in front of them. Maybe there is a little room for improvement on their side, but with some educational opportunities, they have the strong potential to improve the effectiveness of their operation. And that's where I think we can come in. Of course, the discussion on these issues at the state level or government level is important, but at the same time, we should go to the community level, and there is a strong potential there. President Obasanjo of Nigeria and other eminent persons have agreed to accept our invitations to come to Japan. We stayed in Hakone for 2 days for the discussions. Of course, we had very candid, straightforward discussions. Our discussions are not esoteric, and we had a very straightforward exchange of views, and all the eminent persons have come to Japan all the way, traveling long distances with a strong passion to further improve Africa-Japan relations and partnership further. We expect to have their views today. Of course, we are not interested in simply the international meetings or symposium for formality's sake. We'd like to continue our engagement on an ongoing basis. We'd like to have this type of meeting on a regular basis, regularize annually into the future, so that we can be constantly supported by important views from eminent persons. As I said, local communities of people in Africa have problems and the answers to them. And our spirit is never give up. The stronger partnership between Africa and Japan cannot be built overnight. We need a long-term, ongoing relations. That is what we have in mind into the future. And so we are very pleased to have the eminent persons from Africa. We are ready to listen to them with the modesty. And let's think of what we can do, we can do as the Japanese government and as the people of Japan. Of course, there are many convenient tools or the technology that we can utilize. With that, we can overcome the problem that can come from the distance, physical distance between Africa and Japan. We can find the wonderful human resources and wonderful other people in Africa. We'd like to have a stronger bridge between such a wonderful continent, Africa, and Japan. Of course, the government relations are important, but we can narrow down to the trusty relations at the people's level between people of African countries and Japan. And it's not difficult to identify what we can offer to Africa. For example, when it comes to blue economy, fish, perhaps we can support initiating the aquaculture of fish, or the inland fisheries, inland sea area in Lake Victoria, for example. Aquaculture has started, and also African people started the aquaculture of seaweed as well. So all of these projects are not particularly expensive to start. I don't mean to criticize the Western world, but instead of imposing our perspectives in terms of education or guidance or the management, because the African other countries have experienced the colonial rules. So instead, what we can offer is the exchanging on an equal basis. We work together with sweat on the face, and we can enjoy the shared experience together. I believe that this is the characteristics that we Japanese people have to be shared with African people. We don't need to necessarily mobilize a huge amount of capital. The working together, the sweating together and enjoying together, that the equal the relations on the equal basis is what I believe can offer from us Japanese people to people of Africa. So we have many participants here in this hall, and we have also have participants online. So I look forward to having your views today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sasakawa.
Honorable Excellencies, eminent persons, along with our senior research fellow, Masanori Kobayashi, to the stage. Please come up to the stage. それではここからはアフリカ諸国の
From here on, I'd like to start panel discussion participated by the leaders of nations of Africa as well as the leaders of the regional organizations. And this session is going to be facilitated by Mr. Masanori Kobayashi, the senior researcher of our foundation. Now over to you, Mr. Kobayashi.
From
here on, I, Kobayashi, am going to serve as a facilitator. As was introduced by Dr. Tsunami, we met in Hakone for 3 days to attend the eminent persons meeting. We had extensive discussion there, and we produced a statement that reflects the consequences of the discussion that took place there. And I'd like to share with you that document with you now.
To congratulate and thank excellencies and the political leaders for giving us a very useful ideas about how we can really promote Africa-Japan partnership and enhance the effectiveness of this TCAT process. This text, we call it a statement, will be made available to the diplomatic community members here, and they are also made available on the internet. But first, briefly introduce text. So this reflects this 32 years history of the TCAT, and this TCAT started in 1993, and this August 9th TCAT will be held in Yokohama. Can you scroll? ゆっくりちょっと下の方に移動していただいてよろしいですか。This TCAT process is covering a wide range of issues, and these issues encompass human resource development, industrializations, human resource exchange and also technological cooperations. These discussions we had in Hakone had a focus on food securities and sustainable blue economy promotions. And in this context, they really underline the importance of the Japan-Africa partnership in forging a social capacity for sustainable development. This text consists of 7 key recommendations. I hope you can go down. Number 1に行っていただいてよろしいですか。First, this is to say to mainstream food and nutrition security as a priority policy goals. This is the areas that is very important in the light of the continuously growing population and projected population growth in Africa. And food itself doesn't sound sufficient. It has to be accompanied the proper nutrition. So the stuffing the stomach is the one thing, but providing nutrition is the other thing that's also important. And number 2, that is to reinforce holistic and integrated approach. We have to take into account not only fisheries, agriculture, but also climate change impact. For instance, disaster is one thing, a drought, water shortage is happening. On the other hand, there's a flood, hurricanes, rainstorms that are also devastating the local communities. And this climate change adaptations is another vital point. Number 3 is to give priorities to support fragile state, vulnerable communities, and small island developing states. There are 2 countries that are struggling with a number of constraints, and the small island developing states are also compounded by geographical and other conditions. So they have to be given to the priority in the partnership development. Number 4, to foster exchange of people, youth, and knowledge. And education is one of the key areas. And we have to ensure that this sustainability, livelihood improvement, and possibly blue economies has to become an integral part of education at all levels. This education and the capacity development is particularly important as Honorary Chair Yohei Sasakawa mentioned that the women is getting engaged and the disabled persons can be also integrated. Number 5 is to establish and operationalize Africa-Japan Blue Innovation Fund. This is to support the startup and entrepreneurship and also de-risk the investment in the blue economies areas. Investment in research and development is also vital. And number 6 is to institutionalize multifaceted dialogues. Political leaders, eminent persons can meet regularly. At the same time, experts, stakeholders, public sector representatives, they should be also engaged in the institutionalized platform for continuous policy dialogue. Number 7, monitoring and evaluation of the partnership progress and activities. We have to measure what we have achieved and what we still need to achieve. And this kind of monitoring process would be essential to revisit our strategies and enhance effectiveness. And with these key pillars of recommendations, the eminent persons gathering here have made a request to the Sasakawa Peace Foundations, Nippon Foundations, and Sasakawa Africa associations to give us the opportunity to present this statement along with our recommendations to the Japanese authority and Dr. Tsunami and Honorary Chair Sasakawa and also President Suzuki presented this statement to Foreign Minister Iwaya just 2 hours ago. So you see the list of the members who are sitting in front of us from very right for you, the Dr. and His Excellency Ibrahim Hassan Mayaki, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Niger and the African Union Special Envoy for Food Systems. And next to him, His Excellency Dr. Mrisho Kikwete, former President of the United Republic of Tanzania and the Chair of the Board of the Global Partnership for Education, GPE. And next to him, His Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo, former President of the Federal Republic of Niger and the UN Special Envoy to the Great Lake Region and African Union High Representative to the Horn of Africa. Next to him, His Excellency Jorge Carlos Fonseca, former President of the Republic of Cabo Verde and the founder of the JCPF, Freedom and Democracy Initiatives. And next to him, Dr. Rolando Caberuca, former President of the African Development Bank and African Union High Representative for Financing the Union, the Peace Fund, and the COVID-19 response, and the former Minister of Finance and Economic Planning of the Republic of Rwanda. And last but not least, Dr. Geraldine Fraser Moraketti, former Minister of Public Services and Administration, and the former Minister of Welfare and Population Development of the Republic of South Africa, and currently serving as the Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University and the Chairperson of the Thabo Mbeki Foundations. So first, on behalf of the eminent persons, I would like to invite His Excellency Obasanjo to briefly tell us about overview, to be followed by the Dr. Fraser Moraketti to present a viewpoint, particularly from the gender perspectives. So Excellency Obasanjo, may I invite you to take a floor.
Kobayashi, thank you very much. Let me begin by thanking the Nippon Foundation, the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and the Sasakawa Africa Association for coming together to bring the six of us on this side of the table of the House to deliberate with the Sasakawa leaders, foundation leaders, in preparation for the Decade 9 on how to enhance the process that began 32 years ago, Decade, how to enhance it and forge a sustainable future towards enhancing food security and nutrition security and promoting sustainable blue economy. How to really ensure that Africa is not kept behind in all aspects of human endeavor, but to be able to continue to make meaningful contribution all by itself, and particularly to the international community to which it belongs. And when we look at Africa, we see that on our part, as Africans, we have a role to play. In fact, we have the primary role to play. But we also realize that, yes, if you are in a well, you need a help. You need somebody to throw a rope to you to help you get out of the well or out of the pit. And if you are in a pit and somebody is just saying, come out of the pit, without sending a helping hand, it is of no use. And that is why we appreciate the role that Japan has been playing since the inception of TICAD 32 years ago. This time around, in preparation for TICAD 9, and that the three related organizations have brought us together, we had 2 days of intensive discussion, deliberation, heart-to-heart exchanges in Hakone. The first thing that I will underline is that our discussions are free, candid, and frank, and they really come from the heart. I think we put diplomacy a little bit apart, but we put decency in front and the way we see things. And this is on both sides. We realize that yes, Africa needs assistance, but we are not totally, completely without something to give to the world if we are also able to get ourselves up with the assistance of the world. And the first thing we say to ourselves is we must be the architect of our own fortune. And in being the architect of our own fortune, we take responsibility first for where we must go. Let us not forget where we are coming from, but history is history. And as somebody said to me, history doesn't go back, it goes forward. But then we have to go forward, no matter what history has been. But history has not been fair to us. Let's leave that for now. What do we do? And as I said, you have seen what statement we come up with. But I want to emphasize about 4 or 5 points in this statement and what we believe we should either talk a little bit more about in this symposium or emphasize and take away. And in that case, let me first of all welcome all of you who are here, friends from Japan and brothers and sisters from Africa. And I believe that the purpose that we want to really have of this, or the outcome of this symposium, is what we can share together and what we can take away and pass on one side to the Japanese government, as this statement has been given to the foreign minister, and on the other side to African leaders who will be coming for the TICAD next month. But let me emphasize the 4 or 5 points I want to emphasize. The first one is food and nutrition security. We believe that Africa has capacity not only to feed itself, but also to be a major contributor to food production and food availability in the world. And we say to ourselves, when we talk of food and nutrition security, what really are we talking about? We are talking about availability. And what do we need for availability? We need land, we need people to work on the land, and we have them both. So how do we put land and people together to get what we need in terms of availability of food? We need a few resources. Are those resources available? Can they be made available? And how can they be made available? And when we talk of food, we now talk of not just food in terms of agriculture. We talk of food and the value addition in terms of agribusiness, from land preparation and equipment for land preparation up to food on the table. Is value chain. And it is important that we take all these together. And then when we have the availability of food and nutrition that goes with it, must be not just to fill the stomach, but to fill the stomach in the proportion that the body requires. And so we talk of availability, then accessibility. Accessibility physically, accessibility regionally, accessibility in terms of what we need, even in balanced diet. And then we talk of affordability. If the food is available, or nationally or regionally, is it available to the home households? And if it's available to households or communities, is it affordable? Can they afford it? So we have, if we take care of availability, and we even take care of accessibility, have we been able to take care of affordability? Which brings me to another point, that if we are doing well in accessibility, affordability, availability, accessibility, affordability will also come in, because those who are producing food, who are working, will be generating fund and wealth for themselves to be able to afford the food. So talking of availability, accessibility, affordability, and then sustainability, then we are also talking of poverty alleviation, and we are talking of employment generation. Now, we move, for me, I move, and part of course, we talk of agribusiness, and this time we are paying necessary attention to blue economy. Blue economy for food, but blue economy not also for tourism attraction, blue economy for transportation as a means of using the coastal availability of Africa to do more of movement of goods and services around our coast, particularly for island countries and coastal countries. And the next thing is health. Now, with the situation we have now, we have seen in the last decade or so what we could see that we never expected will happen. One was Ebola. And as we were getting out of Ebola, we had COVID-19. Before that, of course, we have always had malaria. We are hoping that we will have one day be able to get over malaria. I know that a few countries in Africa depend to the point of 30–40% of their health budget on aid, assistance from outside. Now that is drying up. What then do we do to have global fund to deal with health situation? And we take this very seriously. Another point is education. We talk about education in terms of exchange, in terms of quality of education, in terms of science and technology, in terms of research. But then we must not leave out popular education. 244 million children of Africa that should be in school are out of school. That is 10% of the population. And my own country, Nigeria, has 24 million children that should be in school that are not in school. That is not acceptable. How do we deal with that and solve that? And when money or assistance on education is drying up, I also underline value addition in our agribusiness, agricultural production. And I believe value addition, we believe value addition is the way to start our industrialization and manufacturing. By adding value, we start processing, we start industrialization. Then infrastructure, and the last point I emphasize is the issue of intra-African trade and Africa and world trade. Intra-African trade is very, very small, 18%, whereas in Europe, they're doing more than 60%. In Asia, more than 40%, 18%, we can do a lot more. And if we have thriving coastal shipping, we will be able to increase our intra-African trade by at least 10%. These are the points that we emphasize in our discussions leading to the statement that we have put forward that you saw on the screen. But more importantly is two things that I want to emphasize. One is the monitoring, making sure that we know what is going on and where there's need to ginger and to raise attention to whatever is not going as should be going, that is made available and made possible through the assistance of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, Sasakawa Africa Association, and the Nippon Foundation. Now, that is very important, that we don't just make a statement and leave it. There is a follow-up in one form or the other. The second point before I hang the microphone is the issue of what do we do with this statement and how do we handle it. As you heard, the statement has been handed over to the ministry, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So, as a statement is already in the hand of the government, thank you, the hand of the government of Japan. And it will obviously be one of the input for the government of Japan as they prepare for the TICAD 9. The second aspect is that this statement must also go to our leaders, incumbent leaders in Africa, so that they can use it to prepare for their own coming and also to see what they can make of this statement individually and collectively as they come to TICAD. These are the points, and you, the ambassadors from Africa here, we will expect you to do what you know best how to, reporting back home, as you should report back home. Dispatches being sent out appropriately and adequately so that our leaders at home get the sense, the urgency, and the interest that should be fostered through this. I will stop at this point, and I will say that those of us here on the table, if you want to ask questions, but we will want you to also make point or give a statement. But if you want to ask questions from people at the table, you will be free to do so after my sister has had the floor. Geraldine.
Thank you, Excellency Obasanjo's. I guess a number of points are raised. Just to say that this statement copy will be made available to you in the printing and also electronically afterwards. Excuse us that we had to clarify the versions, but it's being photocopied and made available to you. I guess we discussed a number of points, but yes, without further ado, invite Dr. Geraldine Fraser Morochetti to supplement Excellency Obasanjo.
Thank you and good afternoon. And I'd like to compliment what has been raised by President Obasanjo. And I'd particularly like to take you to the resolution that looks at the fostering of exchange of people, women, youth, and knowledge. You do have the statement before you and the recommendations, so I will add some color to it and advise that the larger debate was on the importance of education and the overall education agenda. And in so doing, also particularly looking at the investment in skills at different levels. That's low level, semi-skilled, and the high level. I particularly want to isolate the issue of women as well, because we know the role of women in the blue economy. The investment has really been at the lower tiers of the value chain. And there's a need to change that. But our focus is on women, youth, and the disabled. As we look at the issue of capacity building and capacity development, there's obviously a need to shape the research agenda with a clear focus on creating a new generation of African scientists and researchers to capacitate Africa to deliver the blue economy and food security and food nutrition projects for the sustainable development of the continent. We are not suggesting this is not happening, but we're looking at how the impact can be catalytic and coordination as such to take it to scale. In so doing, there's a need to look at some concrete areas, and this was also discussed during the meeting of the eminent persons. And that's the co-funding of research chairs in African universities, looking at the blue economy thematic areas in order to build research capacity as well as support postgraduate students. Then, of course, the need for a co-creation of a community of practice consisting of African and Japanese universities for knowledge generation and exchange, as well as lecturer or faculty and student development. And there was much debate on how there's a need to increase the numbers to make this happen. The catalytic research and the commitment to this will look at, amongst others, the advancement of food and nutrition security and food systems. I spoke about scholarship and fellowship programs being expanded, as well as looking at maritime spatial planning, biodiversity conservation, new system-based management, and so forth, as well as supporting capacity development at individual and institution level to boost research capacity, including support for regional centers of excellence. So broad discussions on taking that forward. And I hope in a second area, the whole issue of establishing and operationalizing the Africa-Japan Blue Innovation Fund with a clear focus of de-risking investment in the blue economy with a focus, as stated under Resolution 5, on supporting startups, entrepreneurship, and social business, but going well beyond that on technology, production, processing, surveillance, as well as the social inclusion, which was covered, and access to markets for fisheries and aquaculture products. I think I can pause on that, and hopefully there's further discussion. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Geraldine Fraser-Morochetti, for supplementary remarks, particularly on women's and also education issues. I have also brought some questions so far, and there's one question about how women are actually involved in seaweed farming, and I recall President Kikwete referring to the Tanzanian experience. Can I ask President Kikwete just to refer to this nexus between seaweed farming, coastal fisheries, and women's empowerment in your country?
Well, thank you. When we looked at the blue economy, because the blue economy looked at, in relation to food security, we looked at fishing. And our discussion has been, one, it's a major employer. Well, there are so many people in those communities along the coastal areas of the seas, but also the coastal areas of the lakes. Many of these communities live on fishing. But one of the things we said is support to artisanal fishers. The majority of them are artisanal. They are artisanal in the sense that they use equipment that will not take them far into the deeper waters. For example, in the case of the coastline of Tanzania, the coastline of Zanzibar, our fishermen go not more beyond the 6 nautical miles. And these 6 nautical miles, we're talking of the shallow waters. And they have done a lot of fishing, overfishing, and the fish stocks are almost declining. They can't go beyond that because of the vessels they have, the traditional dugout canoes. But if we have to take these people out of poverty, if we have to increase their incomes, they need the technology that would enable them to go beyond the shallow waters, into the deeper waters, where the bigger fish, the more fish are available. If they can go into the deep seas, then that is where the tunas now are available and the bigger types of fish. We discussed that when we talk about developing the blue economy, when it comes to the seas, the artisanal of improving the performance of the artisanal fishermen is a critical factor that has to be taken into consideration. But the other aspect which is growing now is aquaculture, where now we have people in the lakes and along the seas who are now creating ponds to grow fish and sell so that they make money, they improve their living and livelihood. These people need skills so that they can do it better. And this is now done not only in the lakes, like in Tanzania, Lake Victoria is highly developed. This is increasing. But they're also doing it now at sea. Even within the seas, they create these ponds. They need fingerlings to grow them, become fish that they can sell and making income. But there is another aspect of aquaculture, seaweed farming. It is now highly developed. The world now is moving towards seafood and seaweed farming. Sea cucumber farming is another important industry in aquaculture. And in the case of Tanzania, this is predominantly the business that involves women. It is highly developed, relatively highly developed in Zanzibar, and it is growing along the coastline of mainland Tanzania, along the Indian Ocean. So it's another industry that also needs to be. But the women needs to be supported. They need to get the skills so that they can do it better. They use certain kind of ropes, they grow the seaweeds, they get the seaweeds from the sea, and then grow that, develop that into bigger product, get more. They need the technology, not only the skills, but they need the technology to do it better. But the other important aspect of it, they need the financing so that they can access the technology, they can access the resources to be able to develop that industry. On the African continent, poverty has a female face. Many people are poor, but women are hardest affected by poverty. So when they have this kind of an income generating activity, if we can support women in the seaweed industry, in the sea cucumber industry, in the smallholder farming industry, we'll have made an important contribution towards helping alleviate poverty among the family. And when the women have better income, the family also is better, including their husbands also benefit from their wives or from their women becoming better resource endowed. So this is another aspect where we discussed at great length. We gave a lot of emphasis to it, and that is why the whole idea of Africa-Japan Blue Innovation Fund becomes a critical aspect to help. Of course, as President Obasanjo said, it is the responsibility of governments to try to create this environment, the conditions. But as he was saying, if you're in a pit, you need someone to throw a rope to be able to help you lift up. And if also we can create this fund to help African governments, to have African financial institutions to be able to help the seaweed farmers, the sea cucumber farmers, the aquaculture farmers, it will definitely help a lot in terms of alleviating poverty and at the end of the day, eliminating poverty. This is the addition that I can make. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency Kikwete. This coastal fisheries, aquaculture certainly help eradicating poverty, creating an income-generating opportunity, and empowering women. I see a hand of Excellency Fonseca, and he was referring to this small island developing states and sustainable blue economies. I presume that you have some supplementary remarks.
Can you repeat your question?
Small island developing states and sustainable blue economies, relation entre développement durable et économie bleue durable pour le pays d'huile.
Je vais essayer de parler en français. Il y a une traduction.
Allow me to speak in French because we have French interpreters. Well, this is not my mother tongue, nor it's the official language, but I'd like to speak in French. I'm from Cabo Verde, and it is an island country. In fact, it consists of several islands, multiple islands surrounded by the ocean. And area-wise, it is quite small. It will be around 3,000 square kilometers, surrounded by vast stretch of ocean. % of the territory is actually territorial sea. Therefore, there is no other way but to think about the blue economy for us. And then we have to develop such a blue economy in a country. Their strategy for us would be to develop and construct a blue economy and green economy, to utilize the resources from the ocean. For instance, since 2020, in our country, what we created and developed was the marine special economic zone. And that is a very ambitious project. This is going to be a major platform for trade, for logistics. This is the platform based in ocean. It can connect the Africa, Europe, and the US. This project is currently in progress. We first conducted a basic survey so that we are about to gain the permission, the license for developing such the marine special economic zone, but we face a lack of finance. We need to collect financing and investments so that we can construct the port and airport. Also, we need to conduct the survey on marine resources, including fishery resources. Therefore, we hold a much expectation toward Japan because Japan has extended very effective assistance ever since our independence. Japan is a partner and the strategic, the fishery development especially. Therefore, we hope that the current cooperation, the partnership, and the international relationship, especially with Japan, we are seeing some changes that are going on. As we aim for moving on to the next step, from a small-scale fishery to large-scale fishery, we want to create a partnership that will help us to develop such ambitious project. For Cabo Verde, such special economic maritime zone, if it is created, and then we can think of market in Africa, in Europe, as well as in the US. And I'd like to touch on what is currently under discussion, a controversy right now. And in fact, that's what we discussed, which is reflected in this statement. for economy to develop so that we can ensure food and nutrition security. For that, as I once served as a president, as a politician, I have been an active politician for more than 50 years. I have entered into the politics since I was 18 years old. Thus, I have a lot of experiences ever since Africa Union was created. And in ECOWAS, I have an experience. Right now, there are two circles that are confronting with each other. One is a kind of virtual circle, or rather, it is a virtuous cycle. The virtuous cycle would enable access to food. Then, at the same time, there is a conflict. And the conflict results in starvation, on hunger. And because of that, the violence is induced in Africa, in Cameroon, Haiti, what happened there, or in Sahel, and it's also in Gaza. In those regions or in the countries, there's a vicious cycle that resulted in the threatening of the food security. And this has been discussed for decades. Africa lacks peace. There is no stability, no safety.
C'est un cercle vicieux. Il faut rompre.
So there is no development in Africa, they say. So this is a vicious cycle. We have to sever this vicious cycle. Our country, Japan, and the international community can and have to contribute to this. With our decision, we have to do this. We have to sever the vicious cycle. Not emotionally, but rationally, we have to do it by ourselves. Africa is an important bloc. We need to win peace. We need to win safety. And with other blocs or with other regions of the world, we need to be able to talk on an equal basis as a continent. In Africa, there are serious illusion that we can be peaceful. Politics and policies, well, and then that we can realize that by supporting politics, but any politics or policies have to be founded on the democracy. Thank you very much indeed for your the important perspective.
This cold chain infrastructures, fish, seafood are very perishable, and that depends on the availability of this supply chain management. And I think it may be related to agricultural produce as well, but I just wonder if Dr. Mayaki can comment on this connectivity and brew food supply chain development challenges in Africa.
Thank you, Mr. Kobayashi. I'm not an expert in that question, so my response might be general, and I ask for, how do you say, forgiveness, for tolerance. 3 points. Whatever we do in food systems, and this is why the term systems has been added to the term food, has to be looked at in terms of interlinkages. And President Obasanjo and President Kikwete illustrated it very well. President Obasanjo referring to availability, accessibility, affordability, and President Kikwete highlighting in a very concrete and pragmatic way the value chain, especially in the blue economy. Now, let me go back to the issue of interlinkages. Why are we talking, why is the expression food systems important? Because we cannot have availability, accessibility, and affordability if you do not have infrastructure, if you do not have transport, you do not have energy, and you do not have access to finance by small-scale farmers or by fishermen, and you do not have the necessary equipment that allows to manage cold chains or that allows to manage and reduce waste. So, and that type of thinking goes beyond ministries of agriculture, ministries of energy. It is interministerial. And being interministerial, it is a whole government approach. So this is why sometimes we think that interministerial committees can change and produce food system transformation. But when you see the leaders who are here, they have implemented hands-on processes of transformation. It's not interministerial committees who produce transformation. It's dedicated leadership with pragmatism. And when you talk about food systems, transformation comes by the management of these interlinkages. So it's all the policies that go together. The energy policy, the transport policy, the trade policy, the land policy, the inputs policy need to go together, and this is what makes the question of systems. Now on the blue economy, just I had 1 point, 2 more points. There is an African blue economy strategy, as you know. And that Africa blue economy strategy, its implementation has a regional dimension, because we have regional blue economy commissions, SADC, ECOWAS, I mean all the regions. So the aim of these regional commissions is to provide harmonization of the policies and to create a market, a regional market, because none of our country alone can really get out of, can solve the issue. And it was mentioned also by President Obasanjo and President Kikwete and President Fonseca. So the regional dimension is very important, in addition to the question of the interlinkages. And the blue economy strategy has to be regionalized. Third point, and I will stop there, and it was equally mentioned, intra-Africa trade. Intra-Africa trade, and President Obasanjo mentioned coastal shipping. It's very important because Africa is an island. And it's a big island. There are small islands, but it's a big island. And as a big island, the trade is not only interland, the trade has to be facilitated all around the island. And this is why coastal shipping is important. And in addition to that, now responding to a question on which I'm not an expert, but trying to, cold chains are a question of infrastructure. And if you miss that link, then you are no longer in a system approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mayaki, for referring to this food system, sub-regional, regional approaches, and this coastal shipping issues. I'm getting a bit pressed by the time, and I just wanted to turn to Dr. Donaldo Kaberuka about this financing issues. I think we discussed about this blended finance, philanthropic finance to de-risk the new businesses or startups, and the African Regional Bank, Development Bank is very important to induce private sector investment. I just wondered if you can supplement this sequence of seed funding, philanthropic funding, regional development bank funding, private sector investment in terms of promoting sustainable blue economies. We see this idea of Japan, Africa, Africa, Japan, Blue Innovation Fund. How do you see the prospect for institutionalizing and operationalizing such an idea? Dr. Kaberuka, please.
Thank you. I think everything has been said. I don't have much to add. I just have 3 points I would like to make. Point number one, it's about the history of TICAD. TICAD in 1993 was formed for two very specific reasons. Number one, there was a feeling that Africa was being marginalized from international discourse. And so between Japan and the World Bank and the United Nations, an initiative was born, which is TICAD. Remobilize attention, mobilize resources for the African continent. Now today, we're in another turning point, but it's no longer about mobilizing aid for Africa. It is about how do we shift from aid to trade and investment. And here Japan has got a long experience in Southeast Asia, in this region. If you go to places like Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, all over the place, you find the Japanese stamp. But the Japanese stamp is not about aid, assistance, it's about trade and investment. So that is always the first point. And that's why we're here to talk about, not about aid from Japan, it's about trade and investment with Japan. And that means you have to have new instruments of financial intermediation, whether they're state banks or private. There's the second reason TICAD was formed, which we have not discussed, because that's not within our mandate. It was about UN reform. It was a very key point of TICAD, UN reform. And here I must say that progress has been much slower on UN reform. But even though it has been slower, we cannot give up on international cooperation on the global public goods. And one of the global public goods is precisely what we're discussing, the blue economy. No country can handle it on their own. Within our territories, yes, but there's a part of the blue economy which is a global public good. And so the emphasis on the blue economy here is not simply about national economic benefits, it's about the global public good, which is our oceans and our ocean economies. Now, TICAD has been a success in a number of ways. And one of them was the impact on the global institutions dealing with disease burden. I think without TICAD, it maybe would have been difficult to have things like the Global Fund, Global Alliance on Vaccination, and stuff like that. But now we have moved to a point where those things have to be funded by ourselves. So the fight against HIV/AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis vaccination has been generously funded through international cooperation. But now we have to fund them ourselves. So which means, again, building the economies capable of expanding the fiscal space, funding ways of working with the private sector, say on vaccine manufacturing, stuff like that. And I listened yesterday to, I think, your foreign minister, I think was giving an interview in Paris or somewhere, and he said the ticket in Yokohama, they would like to focus precisely on the economy, but especially on how to make use of the digital and artificial intelligence to support the kind of things we're discussing. And I really like that because it means with the new technologies available, as he was saying, you can look up his interview, that with artificial intelligence, we're able to be much more effective, whether it is food security, the blue economy, education, health. And I think that is very important. So I'm hoping that at this ticket, we look at how to use the new instruments available in the digital space, in the financial space, to advance the ticket process beyond simply aid to how do we simulate trade and investment for these new sectors. Now, as for creating a new fund, in this document, we mentioned this, but we're also prudent, we're also lucid to know that in the world today there are too many funds, but unfunded funds. I can give you the example of the pandemic fund. After COVID, there was this call to create a new fund for pandemics. Target, I think, was $4 billion. It is located in the World Bank. It is now hardly $1 billion. Hardly $1 billion. So we are cautioning that we're not talking about creating another fund which will be unfunded, like the Green Climate Fund, the Pandemic Fund. It's about a seed instrument to attract additional funding from the private markets. Now I want to add here, because I say everything has been said by our leaders here, that we don't mention this document something but which we discussed in detail, which is about the potential of demography. Let me put it this way. If you look at the state of the global economy today, if you look at the countries we call the global north means the US, Europe, Japan, okay. The amount of savings available are increasing every year. And the return to those savings is diminishing as well. Here in Japan, you know very well, you have tried to promote consumption and investment by even getting to negative interest rates. A colleague of mine, Mr. Kuroda, who used to be head of the Asian Development Bank, when I was head of the African Development Bank, became governor of Bank of Japan. And him and I are discussing how, at the time you brought down interest rates, I think, to -2. Still, it did not increase consumption and investment because of the demographic realities. Now, in our continent, it's the opposite problem. Because our demographies are expanding, there are more needs for investment, social investments, but our savings are negative. Our savings are negative. And so, is there a way in which we can combine these two opportunities? There is opportunities in the north, country like Japan, where the savings are increasing, but the return on those savings outside the narrow domain of technology are very low. And yet you'll have to pay for your pensions in the future. Now, in our countries, it's the opposite problem. We have expanding demographies, we have needs in health, education, the blue economy and all this, and we need to attract that investment. So if we can find a way to create financial vehicles which make it possible for countries like Japan, with a lot of savings, surplus savings, which increase every year because of demographics, but with low returns. With our countries where demographies are increasing, there are more needs, and the returns on investment can be very, very high. I tell you, there's no return on investment, which is higher than investing in places like our continent. And so my answer to you, sir, is that what we are saying roughly here is that we need to create new financial vehicles, not the old funds, which simply transfers aid from taxpayer in Japan to our people. No. We're looking at pools of capital available in places like Japan, which are getting very low returns, to where they can get very high returns because of demography. And this is what Japan has done in Southeast Asia. I was mentioning to my colleagues yesterday that Vietnam, where I saw a lot of Japanese investments, Korean investments, and even some of your neighbors, has expanded GDP from $14 billion to $500 billion in one generation, and thanks to investments from Japan, Korea, and places like that. So, whether it is blue economy, food security, infrastructure, this is what we are saying. So it's not ticket of 1993, come and help us. No. I think that bridge has been crossed. It's about what we do so you can get better returns on your savings, on your investments, and how we can get more resources to invest in social capital, food security, blue economy, so that globally we create a better world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We catalyze investment and mobilize returns. Thank you, Dr. Kaberuka, for pointing out. We went over the agreed time. My apology, but I cannot close this without asking Excellency Obasanjo to give us one final word and a message to the audience here. Maybe just, it's not a few seconds, maybe half a minute to have your final key message.
Well, thank you very much. And as I said, well, we cannot thank Nippon Foundation, Sasakawa Peace Foundation, Sasakawa Africa Association enough for this wonderful opportunity. And if I can put it succinctly, there is hope. That is what I would say our discussion over the last 4 days. There's hope in partnership. There's hope in working together. There's hope in collectivity, and there's hope in not seeing ourselves in silos. And it is that hope, I believe, that we have to hang on to and make to work for ourselves, and Japan, and for the international community. We shouldn't look at the dark side. We should look at the bright side. And normally, before the daybreak, there's darkness. Maybe the darkness we see now is before daybreak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency Obasanjo. So may I ask Excellencies to remain seated? There will be a closing mass, but let me ask you to give one more big round of applause to the panelists and the leaders here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, distinguished panelists. A.G. Sakai, Executive Director of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, delivers a closing remark. Thank you very much. My name is Sakai of Sasakawa Peace Foundation. I'd like to share a few words at the closing of this symposium. Thank you very much indeed for your joining us this afternoon for this symposium, from taking time from your schedule. I believe that we have been able to have a deeper understanding about the issues that Africa and Japan should address, and the further opportunities and potential for cooperation and partnership in areas such as blue economy and food security, and very important insights that our eminent persons shared with us at the symposium following eminent persons meeting. I'm sure there will be an important guidance or guideline for further discussions of international partnership, as well as discussions to be held at TICAD 9 next month. Once again, my deep appreciation to all the esteemed panelists. And I also thank sincerely to all the participants in this hall, and also who are online. Your high interest and passion has made this dialogue more important and significant. We, Sasakawa Peace Foundation, will continue to work for wider and deeper partnership and cooperation with African nations, with the OPRI as the core of our effort. I hope that today's the results will pave the way forward. Once again, thank you very much to the African eminent persons who have come to Japan all the way from their countries, as well as all the speakers and the participants who have been with us today. Thank you very much. This concludes today's special international symposium, Forging a Sustainable Future through Africa-Japan Collaboration Towards Enhancing Food Security and Promoting Sustainable Blue Economies. And the recommendations and also the statements are also accessible on our website as well. Once again, thank you very much indeed for your participation.